an original MCM production.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? What's going on?
Welcome to What's Going On with Martha Love. I'm your guest host today, Tosha Davis, and I am so excited and humbled to be interviewing Mr. Raheem Islam, the president and CEO of Universal Companies based out of Philadelphia. Hi, Raheem.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm doing okay.
You're doing okay. Well, I am so excited to have this opportunity to guest host on What's Going On and to be able to interview you and introduce you more to the people in Milwaukee.
Looking forward to it.
So, can you tell me a little bit about you, your background? We know that you're currently the president of Universal Companies, but you've done some other things before that.
Well, I don't know how far you want me to go. I was born and raised.
I was born in a.
Born and raised in Philadelphia. I went to public school there in Philadelphia. Ultimately, went to LaSalle University, and I spent most of my early part of my life working for Sun Oil Company. I started in the mailroom, and that was the entry for many black people back in the late 70s, early 80s. Big corporation, and kind of your way in was through the mailroom. So I worked in the mailroom, worked my way out of the mailroom and into a number of different positions in Sun Oil over a 20-year period, mainly in transportation, logistics, moving cargo from one place to another place. So I got a lot of training in marine transportation, rail line transportation, inland transportation, tractor trailer, and the like. And I learned a lot about how to move things from one point A to point B all over the world. And so that was predominantly, I mean, I had quite a few other jobs, but that was the one that kind of dominated the most. And so that's my professional career. Then I met Kenny Gamble.
Who's Kenny Gamble?
Well, Kenny Gamble is a songwriter. He like he says, I'm just a songwriter, but he's Kenny Gamble is a prolific songwriter, part of the Gamble and Huff duo, the architects and the creators of what they call the Sound of Philadelphia, which
TSOP.
TSOP, which is a unique sound that mixed rhythm and blues, strong horns and rhythm sections, and really good groovy music with some dynamic lyrics, messages.
The message in the music.
They call it the message in the music. So that was the sound of Philadelphia. It was kind of the continuation of rhythm and blues, the development of rhythm and blues after Motown. And so you get Motown ruled in the early 60s, most of the 60s, part of the 70s, and then Gamble and Huff ruled the industry all the way from the late 60s throughout the 70s and part of the 80s. But I met Kenny Gamble, and we were on similar paths, wanting to rebuild our community, wanted to help our community, wanted to figure out, well, how do we get out of this mess that we're in? And that was early on, and that really was the beginning of our dialogue, and our conversation ultimately developed and produced Universal Companies.
So you meet Kenny Gamble, and you both decide that you want to do work in the community, and you come together and you birth this organization called Universal.
Well, obviously it was a whole lot, a lot of pieces to the puzzle. But the big part is that yes. But I think one of the things that I do a lot of, and that it's funny that I kind of remember just sitting here thinking about how I met Kenny Gamble. And I met Kenny Gamble because I was doing a presentation about an economic development for our community. And he was in the audience. And after the presentation was over, you're on a stage and you're talking, and people come up to the stage and they want to talk to you. Well, Kenny Gamble came up to the stage
To
and
talk to
wanted to
you.
talk to me, and for the life of me, I've known about Kenny Gamble all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was a lover of the music. I was actually a student of the music, and I knew about him, knew everything about him. I read his music. I read the liner notes in his albums. I used to listen to the message to the music, and I was kind of really not only enjoying the music, but I also was really motivated by the
The
message.
message, okay.
And so I never thought I would meet Kenny Gamble. And so I'm sitting here giving a presentation about economic development and how we can do things in our neighborhoods and how we're going to do it. And he says, "Could I get a copy of that presentation?"
Wow.
And I said, "Sure." And we met. And the funny thing about Kenny Gamble is, I mean, he stays on the phone. I mean, stays on the phone. And I think the next day he called me, and we've been working together ever
You've probably
since.
spoken to him every day since then,
At
right?
least 2-3 times a day. But we went into. He says a lot of times that, and he talks about his career meeting Leon Huff, and they met I think on a Wednesday in the building, the historic meeting in the elevator with
Right.
him and Leon Huff. And he said that Saturday they came together and they wrote 8 songs together. Well, that's the same thing
Same
we
thing
did.
happened with you and him.
Yeah, when we met and when we start putting together ideas and concepts and thoughts and strategies, and we never stopped. And so Universal was one of the beginning pieces of the kind of fallout of our discussions. We were organizing the community. Also, we created a concept called the Celebration of Excellence, where we were tired of hearing all the negative things that are taking place in our community.
Mm-hmm.
How do we celebrate the excellence in our community? And that was one of the things that we begun to pull together our entire community. We had a big event in the winter of 93, 92 or 93, and it pulled the entire city together.
Mm-hmm.
All aspects of the city. I mean, legislators, the politicians, professional people, working people, you name it, pulled everybody
Everyone
together
together
to
one
talk
table.
about the excellence in our community. And it was just a beautiful event. We had a keynote speaker, a gentleman by the name of Imam Warfdi Muhammad, who's no longer here. He's since passed away. He's the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he took over the Nation of Islam when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed away.
Okay.
So it was a very big person and high-profile individual, national speaker, and he came in to kind of, really talk about excellence in the black community, and it was phenomenal. So, and we've been working ever since.
So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things you've done at Universal, not just you, but I know that you are real big on a team, but you're clearly the face of Universal, you and Mr. Gamble. Some of the things that you've done, I know that Mr. Gamble came back to the neighborhood where he grew up, and you all started to do some development there. What did that?
Yeah, Kenny Gamble. What gave? I've been in real estate development some aspect for a long time, but nowhere near the level we are now at Universal. But we knew fundamentally that a key ingredient of rebuilding our community had to be, physically rebuilding the neighborhoods. And so Kenny Gamble, over a 10, 15-year period, bought blocks and blocks and blocks of properties. And independent of me,
Right.
prior to me, he had made a decision to move back into his old neighborhood in South Philadelphia to orchestrate this redevelopment. There was a lot of starts and stops and challenges or learning curves
On the way.
that he undertook. But when we met, I was going through a divorce, and so it was very easy for me to relocate
Okay.
And so I moved down to South Philadelphia in the area and became hands-on. So I was working in Sun Oil. I was living there. And the job that I had at Sun Oil really afforded me to be able to work any hours I really wanted to. So I
Okay.
could work the third shift.
If you needed to get
I
that
could
work
work
done.
weekends. And so that gave me the ability to work on Universal throughout the day,
Okay.
5 days a week. So literally I had like two jobs,
Jobs. Just two?
Well, yeah, just technically, yeah, two. But it gave me an opportunity to work during the week, and I lived there. And so we had a lot of neighborhood, and we controlled a lot of through Kenny Gamble's purchase of these properties. So one of the first things we did was bring security in. There was 24 hours, 7 days a week security because it was a really, really bad neighborhood. I mean, it was nobody really had eyes in that area. The police wasn't really participating in that area. There was open drug trafficking everywhere. There was prostitution. I mean, real prostitution. I mean, I've always heard about prostitution, but I didn't really know it until I came down there. I mean,
I saw it
I
firsthand.
seen the real, the pimps and the women on the street and the crazy cars and all that old crazy stuff, because people had left that neighborhood and abandoned it, and nobody really was taking claim. And to me, it looked like all of those challenges were a terror to the people, primarily elders
That lived
that
there.
lived in the neighborhood, who had been in that neighborhood for 40 and 50 years and maybe couldn't really
Move.
go anywhere.
Right.
But they were subjected to the worst conditions, and there were just everything you can think of going on. So one of the first things we did was install security, and Kenny did that out of his own pocket, but we parlayed those men. There was 6 or 7 men working on that team, and we were able to build a mosque, open up a mosque that became another hub for us to kind of bring people together as a meeting place and a meeting facility. And then we opened our office. We had a small office on a little small street, a garage, and Kenny gave that garage to us. And a gentleman by the name of Shahid Dewan, who was my business partner in another effort that we had called D&I Associates, which we were involved in real estate development and also consulting in a number of different business ventures. Together, we built the office on a little street called Montrose Street in the area. Then Shahid moved down.
Okay.
So now we had the three amigos. We had Kenny Gamble, Raheem Islam, and Shahid Dewan meeting on a regular basis and trying to figure things out. We started Universal. Doing one house, 2 houses, 3 houses, 4 houses. Try to figure things out. We met with a whole lot of people. I came from the private sector. I didn't know anything about no community development. I didn't know little about politics. I didn't know about nothing. I just knew what I knew, and trust me, I had to learn humility. I had to learn the value of relationships. I had to learn how to deal with the community who treated you as kind of like was a suspect because they just couldn't believe that this is genuine.
Right. What's your angle?
There was a religious angle. People thinking that, this is some Muslim thing. They're going to take over the neighborhood.
As opposed to community.
You name it. There was every kind of threat or suspicion about our intention.
Okay.
Because the community has never seen anything. They've been the victims of everything that could take place. But again, I just didn't know. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know what it meant. I just wanted to do good. I just wanted to help our people. But I didn't know how complicated things really were. And I still didn't know. So I started learning a lot about the environment, the context of what we wanted to get done, and how you actually get it done, how you work with politicians, what were their role. I never even dealt with them. I didn't even know what they did.
Right.
What the
I
heck they
need to talk to
did?
them.
Yeah, well, but anyway, so about 2 or 3 years, we did a lot of planning, we did a lot of strategizing, we did a lot of conversations, and then we started a plan, working on a plan.
Okay.
And then we started to implement that plan. Along the way, we would build houses here and there. We knew that the building of houses, the energy behind it could be a catalyst for economic development.
To create other things.
Yeah, you start, employing people, your
Right.
plumbers, your electricians, your carpenters, your roofers. You start buying supplies and materials.
Right.
It's a ripple effect.
The
And
community.
in addition, you're taking a blighted house and you restoring it.
Right.
So you're getting a lot of things done. So we went on that path for a couple of years with the whole intent of physically rebuilding these neighborhoods.
Okay.
And then we were able to get into our first big project, which was like at that time like $7 or $8 million. It was like 30 something units, maybe 36, maybe 40 units or so. And we said we're gonna change the world with this project. Lord, did we know? Look, did we really have any kind of idea what we were even doing? But one of the things we wanted to do was give black contractors an opportunity.
Okay.
But when you got to that scale, now we started to realize some of the structural challenges
systematic
that
things.
keeping black contractors from participating in big projects. That was big to us, but they get much bigger.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they were at the low end of big projects. But if they couldn't get in those projects,
how could they move to the next level?
They couldn't get to the other bigger projects. So that's when our reality check started to happen. The banks control things. The government control things. They dictate things. And many times their dictation, their standards, their requirements are anti or not friendly to small black contractors.
Okay.
And they're more friendlier to established white large contractors.
Right.
And then we had some influence, so we were able to get some of the small contractors to be given subcontracts by the large white contractors. But the reality is that at the best, they weren't being treated peer to peer. They were being more treated as contractor to personnel. So basically, if you get a big contract, and then I start subbing a portion of the contract out. Only thing I'm buying is your staff.
Right, your labor.
I'm not really buying your company.
Exactly.
And so your company don't get a chance to grow
or build capacity.
Right. And as crazy as it seems, 20 something years ago, when we first did our project, we had a hard time getting people to come live there. Now, shoot, you couldn't even.
Right, now you can't get anything
You couldn't buy your way in if you wanted to. But at that time, we couldn't get people who want to.
So you build the houses, you restore them, and then you have a struggle getting people to even.
Everything was a struggle. Every aspect of it was a struggle.
At one point, you even opened your own construction company.
Yeah, we had a construction for some time. We did a lot of projects here and there, but we also had a construction school. We had we said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out, here's what we're going to do. We seen some of the challenges and that prevent our people from participating in the trades. And then we also seen our challenges for our contractor for participating in large contracts. So we started two entities: Universal Center for Employment Training, which is a job training program, which is one of the largest in the state. And we operated it, job training program, which had a strong trades and apprenticeship program.
So you could feed those people directly into it.
We can. One of the biggest issues we found, so it's like a pre-apprenticeship program. We couldn't get our young men to pass the exams to even begin the apprenticeship.
Sure.
So we would do what's necessary, like a pre-apprenticeship in our job training program. And then we opened up the Universal Business and Support Center. And the Business Support Center helped small contractors do and create opportunities, connect them to opportunities, access to capital, and also some back office operations.
So they could apply for these larger jobs.
So
and get
Universal at
support.
that time had Universal Community Homes, which was our builder. We had Reconstruction, was our contracting company, and then we expanded to our Universal Center for Employment Training, and then our Universal Business Support Center.
Okay.
And then to even make matters a little bit even worse, trying to figure we needed capital. So at that time, they had just started the Community Development Financial Institution, CDFIs, and we were one of the first authorizations by U.S. Treasury for CDFI, and we created our own loan fund.
Okay.
So we had, instead of trying to refer people to access to capital, we created our own capital. And we built 7 companies that we took an equity participation in those companies. So now we're growing. Now Universal is, doing, real estate development, doing construction, doing job training for our adults.
You're transforming neighborhoods at this
Transforming neighborhood, building people, dealing with the issues and the systemic issues why these neighborhoods are receiving such disinvestment and how it happens and continues. So we started putting piece to piece together. And one of the first things we realized that we could not achieve all of this in any one neighborhood for a number of reasons. I would be here forever to tell you why. It just doesn't work that way because we talked earlier about politics.
Right.
Well, for every politician for any district, there are 9, 10, 12 districts fighting for the same resources.
Right.
So you can't get all the resources.
They have to be spread out.
It has to be politically correct, and it gets spread out. And as it gets spread out, it gets weakened. Its ability to transform gets weakened. But those are the kind of things you have to deal with and confront while you're undertaking this process. In addition, internally, people suspecting where you're coming from.
What's your
this
angle?
Is a money
what you
grab.
doing? You guys making all the money.
Look, and then I heard Kenny talk about so many times about, he gave all these speeches and talk about, we can't even go get a loaf of bread from our own. So, we opened our Universal Business mini markets. And so we had our mini markets open up, and I'm listening to this guy, you know what I mean? I'm saying, I'm hearing what he's saying. I'm listening to speeches. So I go and figure out a way, how do we go do it? And so we had a restaurant. We had our mini markets. We had purchased 9 different corners. We was ready to franchise our mini markets like the 7-Elevens in the community. We had a reference in our community going back to Leon Sullivan with the OIC, and they had in Philly our markets, OUR, our markets.
Okay.
And they had little mini markets back there, so we was kind of replicating
using that model.
So we started. That's where the concept of Universal started to really expand. And so you had the Universal School. Not
yet. We hadn't got there yet.
We ain't got there yet. I'm still early. I misspoke. We had the Universal Center for Employment Training, Universal Community Homes. We had Jamiat Construction. We had a Universal Business Support Center. We had the Universal Financial Institutions, and then we had the Universal Mini Markets.
Okay. And at some point, you also either owned and or managed clubs.
Oh, we even got there yet.
Yeah, we ain't got there yet. Okay.
No. We still in a neighborhood.
We're still in the development stage.
We're still in the neighborhood trying to figure things out. But again, all the things we developed were needs to deal with issues that our belief was if we couldn't find the talent, we're going to create the talent. And so we can't wait for somebody to come in and feel the way we feel and approach it. During that same period, we had a number of different initiatives. We had a big, strong health initiative, and that health initiative was twofold: was not only medical health and physical health, but it was mental health.
Okay.
A big issue for mental health was drug and alcohol. We had 2 drug and alcohol centers, so we were just trying to address the needs in the community. and not go to people and talk to people about, oh, well, what you should do with no solution. You
Right.
should stop doing drugs. Well, if you're going to tell somebody to stop doing drugs,
How are you going to help them do it?
take them right to a drug center where they can go and check in and get out of doing drugs. You're gonna talk about somebody, well, they're unemployed and they should go to work. Go right over to the job training center and get your skills, and we'll place you. We're placing people, on jobs, and so, you can't just talk to people.
You gotta do
You have
it.
to have solutions, and so what we realized though. These things are bigger than we could have imagined. I mean, they were much more bigger. So every time we looked up, there was another issue that we were facing, and that we had limitations. Vision, a limitation on our vision. We had limitation on capacity.
Okay.
We had limitations on resources. We had limitations on a number of different things. So while we envisioned, doing a lot of things, we couldn't achieve all of them in one neighborhood. So we started to spread out.
Okay.
And then that created another issue because people said, well, I thought you're from South Philly. What are you doing?
Right. Why are
you in North Philly?
What are you doing over here in this
What
neighborhood?
are you doing this here?
But you were diversifying so that you could build capacity.
Well, we were just basically coming to a realization that you're right. There was, I don't know if we use those terms diversify. That's a little bit too sophisticated.
Right.
We were just trying to survive.
He was just making it happen.
We was trying to survive, and we were going wherever the need was to fuel this engine. We started, with Kenny, Shahid, and I were the first employees of Universal. Then we get to be 20 employees, then 30 employees, then 40 employees, and on and on. And so and so many things in between there, obviously, up until we even recoined the new sound of Philadelphia.
Okay.
And that sound was a hammer, a
Okay.
saw.
It was
building,
and developing.
building, breaking ground, ribbon cuttings, breaking ground. Those was the new sound of Philadelphia.
So we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit more because we haven't even made it to 1999 when you decided to jump off into education.
And talk about the club.
The clubs and that stint that you had in entertainment, which of course makes perfect sense with Kenny Gamble being the chairman of the company. And then also when we come back, we want to talk about the name Universal and the Universal plan and why we're so lucky to have you here in Milwaukee now.
Okay.
We're going to come back after the break. You're looking and watching What's Going On with Martha Love. I'm your guest host, Tosha Davis.
In order to beat breast cancer, I knew I would have to lose my breasts. But to reclaim my life, I chose breast reconstruction.
Each year, nearly 150,000 women will learn they will undergo a mastectomy due to breast cancer. But 7 out of 10 women are never told about their breast reconstruction options. Breast reconstruction is a very important part of the healing process, both physically and emotionally. Download my song Flower to share the message and help us share the fact that women can feel whole again.
Welcome to Cook It Safe Challenge, where teams compete to make the right decisions about safe food preparations. Our challenge in this round, read and follow packaged cooking instructions and use a food thermometer. Let's see how our teams are doing so far. Team 1.
We just got 100 points.
We separated our raw food from our cooked food.
Team 2.
We got a 100-point green card for proper hand washing before our meal prep.
We've reached a critical safety point in the challenge. Okay, Team 1, let's check this out. Uh-oh, not a safe internal temperature for those hamburgers. That puts everyone at high risk for foodborne illness. You get a red card, undercooked. Always read and follow the packaged cooking instructions and use a food thermometer. Let's see how our winning team cooked it safe and avoided problems.
Well, I just kept focused on the 4 food safety steps: clean, separate, cook, and chill.
And we followed the packaged cooking instructions and took the temperature.
Can you cook it safe?
114th Infantry Company, Iraq.
The memories are all blurred.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
The words, they're hard to find.
I came back a different person.
I wonder if she's better off without me.
You just feel
alone.
You gave all to the cause of freedom. Now it's our turn to give our all to you. It's free and totally confidential. Reach us at operationnotforgotten.com. We are here.
Welcome back to What's Going On with Martha Love. I'm your guest host, Tosha Davis, and we're speaking today with the president and CEO of Universal Companies, Raheem Islam. Hi, Raheem.
Good afternoon.
Again. So, in our first segment, we talked about a lot. I almost felt as if it was similar to the interview that you did with Kenny Gamble, where I think you only made it up to 1960 because there was so much that happened.
Yeah.
So we kind of left off with Universal and the development work and you building this team and coming together and starting to do development and then spreading out outside of just that community where Mr. Gamble grew up. And then some things changed. So before we get to Universal deciding that it's going to take on education, I want to talk about the Universal name and where that came from and how that got started. Did you start off as Universal? Was that from one of Mr. Gamble's songs? Is it a concept?
You know what? I don't know if it's one of his songs, but we had, it's always been a spiritual undertone in the name Universal. And one of the things that we came up with in our discussion was, what was universal? What was generally accepted? What was generally needed by most communities?
Okay.
You know, and everybody wants a peaceful existence.
Everybody wants the same thing.
Generally. I mean, and by the way, my experience around the world in moving cargoes from all over the world
with Sun
Oil, I was able to see ships that were flagged by different countries.
Okay.
And I would sometimes be the first people they would see when they would dock and get off, and it'd be a Russian ship, it would be an Asian ship, it would be a Malaysian ship, it would be an Egyptian ship, or Italian. First thing they want to do, every one of them, is run to their phone.
Okay.
And get on the phone and call home.
To let them know they safely.
And so it's like, you know, the sanctity of marriage and family, you know, they got children, they going, the girl's not doing what she's supposed to do. The boy's not doing what he's supposed to do.
So it didn't matter what country, it was universal.
The same thing. Everybody's looking for one, a place to raise their children, a safe place, a productive place. Everybody wants a job, a decent job. They want to be able to have a career. So there's certain things that were universal. Okay. And so we said, well, no. And then Kenny Gamble, if you just listen to, he had already created a number of organization with Universal in it. So it was like a natural progression, but it wasn't accidental.
Okay.
It was purposeful.
So you start Universal and you have all these different entities which become basically the trade or the brand name Universal Companies that are operating under. And then in 1999, something happens and you decide to take on education.
Yeah, at that time, actually 2 years earlier, maybe 97, there was a movement going towards in Pennsylvania on charter schools. Mm. So charter schools were probably getting introduced around the country, but in Pennsylvania it actually took hold, and we were involved in anything that we believe could give us the ability to reach our children, because all of the community development work we had done to date, literally we would have to stop at the schools. We couldn't
go any further.
Couldn't go any further. It was like, are you kidding me?
Hands were tied.
This is ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, we would march up here and we'll stop. No matter what we did, we had to work around the school. This doesn't make any sense. And the schools wouldn't work with us. They would not work with us. And traditionally, this has been going on. So this is nothing new, but it was new for us because we thought we would be able to, work with them. But we found the infrastructure around public education was willing to work with the development of our neighborhoods and the needs of our neighborhoods. So the charter schools allowed for us to have public education, but run privately. And we pushed the idea. And so we were one of the organizations that joined the movement. And it was against the tide because the black community wouldn't have nothing to do with it. And they looked at it as the enemy.
Yes.
We looked at it as an opportunity. And I remember we talked openly about what the great Malcolm X says, that anybody who sends their children to the oppressor to be educated is a fool.
Exactly.
And I didn't think he said that to be offensive. But think about it. I mean, what are they teaching our children?
Right.
You know, they're teaching our children to continue to enjoy being oppressed and not thinking even anything about it. And so this is why it's very hard for us to get traction, because many of the assaults or the fights come from our own people.
Right.
Because they've been trained not to value black leadership. They've been trained to actually almost devalue.
Oxymoron. Black.
Well, yeah, it is an oxymoron in our community to say black and leadership at the same place, because, you know, they tell us who our leaders should be. And those leaders are always compromised for whatever reason. And so Kenny Gamble wasn't compromised. And so Raheem Islam wasn't compromised. And we might not have known everything we needed to know, but we definitely was not doing anything because somebody's going to benefit from what we were doing, some trickster or something. We were doing it because we believed that this was necessary for our community. So we opened up our first school in 1999, Universal Institute Charter School. And it became another challenge, because one of the first things that we realized, we got all these grandiose ideas. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're going to do this. And literally 90% of the kids who come to school can't read. You know, so throw all those ideas out.
You almost have to start from scratch.
You had to start from scratch. You know, you could talk about we're going to infuse this Afro-centered education, and we're going to tell them who we are, but they can't read.
Right.
So we got to get them to be able to read. The other thing is that we had to be able to get our own people to do the teaching, because we found out many of our teachers don't know the history either.
Right.
So they're perpetuating stereotypes and black inferiority and white supremacy in their entire conversation, because that's all they know.
Right.
So the problem is much bigger than it is. But we knew fundamentally we had to have two approaches. And I heard somebody say that the time that we spend in trying to fix a broken man, we should be spending that time in preventing and keeping a child from becoming broken.
Doing the preventative instead of reactionary.
And so that's most of our community has been doing, and we did too. We started out on the intervention side, the outcome side, instead of the preventive side. And so we knew fundamental long-term strategies had to be education. So we entered into the education arena like many other arenas that we got involved in. We had a number of different initiatives, a health initiative, we had an education initiative, and we knew everything that Universal was ever attempted to do has always been about scaling. It wasn't enough to say you have, 10 kids. Right. I want 10,000 kids. Then I can get something done. It's not enough to say we're gonna do 50. I want to do 50,000 houses, because when you look at what the need is in our community, we only scratching the surface.
Right.
So it's all, and also embedded in the concept of Universal is scalability.
Okay.
The vision has to be big enough, and it has to be able to be scaled enough to have an impact. And what we've come to realize over the years is the problem is so pronounced that we were moving in the right direction. We didn't know it then, but we know it now, because we know now that there's a concept in real estate development called the tipping point.
Okay.
If you can sneak past the majority of anything, you have an opportunity to change the culture and climate of anything you're doing.
To have impact.
Whatever it is you're doing, whether it's in education, whether it's in real estate development, whether it's in business, you name it. If you can get to a critical mass to have a tipping point, you can change the destiny. And that's what we're attempting to do at Universal and our education. And we're over the years growing. So we've now come to realize there are two prongs that must be managed and managed correctly if you're going to transform black neighborhoods. And we've been in now so many different neighborhoods we've been able to be having a significant impact on. To have the kind of transformation that we envision, it's long term.
Right.
Because it's not physical transformation that's important. It's the people. It's the transforming of the people, because when people know better, they can do better. When people are empowered with information and knowledge, and now they're doing it for themselves, that's success for us. Not that we can go physically redo a building or redo a neighborhood. For me, is when it starts to go and it doesn't stop.
The momentum takes place and it keeps
because
going.
the people are doing it.
Right, for themselves.
And they're doing it for themselves. That is for us. So in order for us to do that, we have to train two populations, our current adults and our children.
And our youth. So you open these schools in Philadelphia, and you're learning, you're going on, and here about 12 to 15 years later, you start some discussions. You're up to 5, 8 schools in Philadelphia. And you start coming to Chicago and Milwaukee.
Well,
not for schools though.
Well, as you were saying,
for development.
We were in quite a few cities for real estate development. So it wasn't abnormal that we are involved in cities
because
outside of
New
Philadelphia.
Jersey, there's development that's going on.
We did a ton of work in Camden. We did a ton of work in Newark, New Jersey, Atlantic City. We didn't get to talk much about, but we were part of an expansion in the transformation of Atlantic City from just a gambling city into an entertainment city.
Right.
And we were part of that initiative, and we kind of anchored that with the development of a huge development called The Quarter. But we were doing real estate development. We were in New Orleans doing real estate, in Atlanta doing real estate development. So we were already privy to doing work outside of Philadelphia in other cities.
Right.
Some we've done significant amounts, some we've never really done, but we chased projects, trying to get some traction and get started. And so that brought me to one of the public housing developments. I can't really remember the name of it. Westlawn. Well, there you go. Brought me to the redevelopment of that one. And is that Joe Davis's
district?
What district? I think
there's been some redistricting since that time, but when you were here and they were that was a HUD project redistricting. That's
what I met. I met him first. I met him first then. But anyway, so in my opinion, in coming to Milwaukee, I sensed that there was a lot of ingredients to be successful in implementing a comprehensive strategy, which is the universal plan. We've kind of coined that now, the universal plan. Basically, it's a plan that's centered around creating an economic engine, a scalable engine that's going to develop education, economic development, a strong community organizing component, a strong black male initiative component, dealing with on the ground some of the kind of issues that's in our tagline. Basically, I seen in Milwaukee had, and it was small enough.
Okay.
So, also I seen in Milwaukee an attitude amongst the common people of agitation.
Okay.
And it also amongst some of the accomplished people.
Okay.
Now
there was something going on. There was something stirring.
There was a dissatisfaction.
Okay.
That they're dissatisfied with the state of the black community.
Okay.
Now they look at this as very negative inside Milwaukee. I looked at it as very, very positive.
As an opportunity.
Because I've worked in several cities, and some cities I don't see this at all, including Philadelphia. As large as Philadelphia is, and people are looking at Philadelphia as some dream or something, I'm here to tell you nothing could be further from the truth.
The reality.
Some of the tangible things that are happening in Milwaukee, Philadelphia does not have.
Okay.
Maybe they had them 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but they've kind of lost, maybe become hopelessness has overtaken the ability to squash that resilience, that resistance. So I see that here, and I see it here amongst a wide array of people, which is good. To me, that's the dirt is fertile,
right?
For
it just needs to be turned.
It's fertile. It's fertile for a comprehensive plan. It's fertile for organizing effort. It's fertile for if you can point to and direct people where they need to be at.
Okay.
So I saw that as a great opportunity, and Dr. Thornton, who I had known from Philadelphia,
who was our previously our superintendent of schools from Milwaukee Public Schools.
He kind of introduced the concept, and basically, I mean, he threw me to the wolves, basically. but that's another subject.
That's another interview.
That's another interview. I can tell you all. He made so many promises to me that please, I had got so far in that it would took me more to get out
than to
complete it.
Okay, so you're here.
He faked me out.
So you get
to
Milwaukee,
I thank him for it.
But you thank him for it because
indeed.
it ends up being a blessing to the city.
Absolutely.
So you get here to Milwaukee. You're doing development in different states. Started off in Philadelphia. You have schools there. You come here and you decide that you're going to open not one school, 2 campuses the first year. And I'm sure that wasn't your original decision, but that was just how things evolved. So you get here the first year, you open up 1 school, Universal Academy for the College Bound, 2 different campuses. You happen upon and see the Webster campus on 53rd and Green Tree. And what happens?
Well, actually, that was the motivation for me. That was the carrot.
That was dangled.
That was dangling. We have a high school, and that we designed and built in Philadelphia, Ord Reed High, and we had to put it on a postage stamp. It's a very beautiful building, but it didn't have the land that is needed to really have a really adequate high school or even school period. When I saw Webster campus and it was closed, I just says no way in the world that this building should be mothballed, and that was my motivation. I envisioned a high school there, even though it was a middle school. I envisioned a high school. I seen it nestled in between 2 parks. It's 15 acres of land behind it. I just seen green, green, green.
So you saw vision.
I just saw children, young people playing basketball, baseball, football, track. I just saw, our young people enjoying the benefits of other schools.
That they have the same thing.
And we call that an opportunity gap. And we started to learn all the different gaps that contribute to the academic gap. And one of them is the opportunity gap. Our kids should have the same opportunity or equal opportunity as others when it comes down to going into a safe building, a building that's comfortable, a building that's inviting.
And beautiful campus.
A building and a facility that is supportive of education. Mm-hmm. Not some concrete tower
or trailers.
Or tower basically where you have no windows and no light coming in, and you have these massive cement. It just, to me, is everything we wanted. So when I saw the building, I worked double time and triple time to figure out how and navigate whatever the things they put in front of us to envision. So it was always envisioned to create a K-12 system in Milwaukee. But I didn't want to take on more than I could handle. So we had to grow it up at
in stages. So
right.
you open the UACB, which is Universal Academy for College Bound campus at the Webster campus. This is the middle school, grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then you open a K4 through 5th grade at was formerly the Green Bay Avenue School, very historic school in the Milwaukee neighborhood, and that becomes UACB Green Bay Millennium Campus. And there you have kindergarten through 5th grade. And then you decide the next year you're going to start the high school at the Webster campus. So beginning this fall coming up, the high school will be opening at the Webster campus.
Mm-hmm.
So that K4 or K through 12 continuum is now on its way.
Yeah, we're at 9th grade. And we have a different idea around high school. Our concept is school to career. So it's really about giving our scholars options, but ingrained in them 4 options. One, when they graduate, they can go to college and they can compete. 2, they can continue the skill training, because we do academy training and we go and look at the labor market and try to train our young people in the areas of the opportunities in the region. And so they can continue their training in that area. 3, what we found is that there has to be a significant sense of understanding our population of our students, and many of our students need to go to work immediately. And so preparing them from school to career, and I went to work and I was able to get 2 degrees at night.
Right.
So you can continue your studies. You don't have to do the traditional way to be successful.
Right.
And so making sure, though, they are successful coming out of high school and being competitive in the labor market. And 4th, most importantly, we need entrepreneurship. We need to develop and cultivate entrepreneurship in our young people. We have to increase the number of business startups. When you look at the business startups, or you look at the existing business community and the Black community, is anemic. Well, it will continue to be anemic if we don't start up businesses at a more expanded clip, because traditionally they're going to be over a 5-year period. There's going to be a certain amount of them that are going to go out of business, and that's just the nature of business. But those who go out of business usually come back again and start up another business, because those learning curves create better entrepreneurs.
Right.
But the process starts when you start the business, and that's what a key measurement that America and economists look at is startups. And when we look at our startups, they're absolutely anemic, and they're reflective of the anemic business community in our community. And so we want that to be a big part of our education.
So this model is the same model that you actually have in Philadelphia for the high schools.
Yes, our education model. Yes.
Okay, and you just graduated your first class from one of the high schools in Philadelphia, your senior class, graduating class that you actually brought them through the whole entire 4 years.
Well, and so we had the school for 4 years. So that means that we had scholars that were in there from 9th grade.
Okay.
And they graduated. It doesn't go 1 for 1, because you have people leave throughout.
Right.
But generally speaking, those who entered in 12th grade, 94% of those kids graduated.
Okay.
Those who entered 9th grade, 70% of those kids graduated.
Okay.
Compared to when we first got to school, 21% of the kids who entered 9th grade graduated.
And some of these schools, unlike the schools here that you started with, the schools in Philadelphia, you took over and inherited the school as is. The building,
all
the
the
students,
right.
Everything.
Except Orton Reed was a new building, but same kids.
Right. So
same students, and so basically they had all the challenges of the previous year, but it is what it is. But I think fundamentally is you need a K-12 education, because we're constantly, and what we're finding right now, we're actually getting ready to get into early childhood education as a business, because we're finding most of our children are coming to kindergarten behind
already.
2 or 3 years developmentally, socially, emotionally, developmentally. Most children to be successful has to be able to read by kindergarten. When they come into kindergarten, if their parental situation is correct, they're reading in kindergarten.
By the time they get there.
At kindergarten. Well, if they're not emotionally developed, then it's very hard to even get them to read in kindergarten. When the competition, they're already coming to the table reading. So they're behind already.
When
so
they
the
start.
gap, the academic gap starts in the womb.
So now you've gone through education. Now you're even saying we got to go back to study. Early childhood education.
Right.
So we've only got a little time, and there's some other things that I want us to be able to get to.
We're going to have to do it.
We're going to have to come back again. But so then you take on another school that has been closed down. That's a historic school here in Milwaukee, the Lee campus on 9th and Meineke, which is a school that is well known throughout the city. I mean, we've got legislators, basketball stars, everybody has attended this school, and it's closed. And you decide that you're going to go into this neighborhood and open this school up that's been sitting closed.
Well, Lee represents the perfect opportunity for Universal and the model of Universal, because the entire concept of Universal is about rebuilding neighborhoods, rebuilding community. So restoring Lee back to a community school and then undertaking the rebuilding of that area is something that I think that is right in our sweet spot at Universal. A couple blocks down the street, we've also been selected with Moore's to develop the Garfield School into a housing development, the restoration of the Black Holocaust Museum. So that's a large project, and then partnering with the school district and getting the building, and then we had to develop the building and restore the building. I think the combination of the two projects put us in a position that we can now drive the redevelopment of that neighborhood.
Okay, so we are definitely going to have to wrap up, Raheem. This has been so wonderful. And there's so many things we didn't get to. We have to do it again. We have to do it again. We didn't get a chance to talk about the community organizing and the more of the community development that's going to be taking place in Milwaukee. We also did not get to talk about the Milwaukee community of leaders. So we are definitely going to have to come back again to continue this discussion about Universal, not just in Philadelphia and throughout the country, but all of the things that Universal is doing here in Milwaukee. So do you have any closing thoughts?
Oh yeah, I look forward to the continued discussion. I just like to thank our host Martha Love for her love.
And Martha was one of the first people that you met.
The love she's shown me personally, and also the support she's given our company and Universal, and so I'm very much appreciative of that, and I look forward to our continued discussion.
Thank you, Raheem, and thank you, our viewers, for what's going on with Martha Love, and I appreciated having the opportunity to be your guest host today. Until next time.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? What's going on? In the meantime, right now, baby. Right now.
An MCM production.